I just wanting to understand how that works as far as your plan goes with what the city's done. So, for example, I know there was two areas. One of them was the 60% masonry that right now, over the last couple of years, the city has been going back and forth about this, and they finally decided on 60% masonry on the various buildings and so forth, and that's in code. And then there was another thing that I heard for a long time about bushes in front of the trash cans and stuff like that.
Yep.
So when this passes, is it anticipated then that the city council would vote on it, and then that would basically replace any zoning things? Okay.
What you have right now is a separate ordinance which regulates a lot of this stuff. Building material. It has a 60% native stone applied really just across the board. Talks about roofs, talks about windows, talks about a different building articulation, talks about all those things. What this is, and what that is for is you're having new development come on right now. And as it is right now, pretty much anything can be built. And when we went through the conference plan process, we discovered that people just don't want anything to be built because they really care about their city, and they want to make sure that things are built nice, because they've seen things that have happened in Granbury and surrounding communities that the growth wave has hit them before, and they want to avoid some of those mistakes that those communities have had. So with that ordinance that's currently in place, is really just sort of a way to ensure that, okay, we're having development happen, but we definitely don't want just your status quo stuff. So it's a way to try to encourage that development. And what we're doing here, it comes out of the conference and plan, where we looked at all those things and we had all the public input, and they told us what they wanted, and now we're just crafting that into the detail, into the implementation tools, I guess I would say that, because the conference and plan just sort of sets out the guidance, the vision of the community. What are the things we want? Well, we like stone materials, we like landscaping, we like all these things. And then when you get to the zoning part, that's the actual implementation tool, where we take, okay, we have this pile of things, landscaping, building materials, and now we're actually putting those into an ordinance when someone comes and develops.
The one they have now is an interim ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Sort of
and then we'll replace it. That's your question.
Okay. Yeah, that's a question.
I guess that's giving you the long answer.
Oh, that's fine.
Long answer to your question, but so that's what we're really doing. We're taking the ideas from the conference plan and the ideas that we heard from the community, and we're putting them into ordinance form. So now when something gets built, it's going to have the look and feel that was expressed in the conference and plan, and you also have the additional scrutiny that it was listed in the conference plan, but before it's ever adopted into the ordinance, it goes through the P&Z, and they have a public hearing, and it goes through the council, and they have a public hearing. And we're also having a community workshop before any of that happens, just to show people, hey, this is what we're thinking. So
if once this is brought to the council, they will look at it and decide, well, they need some changes here and there.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, that's going to kind of delay the process a little bit more, isn't it, as far as any changes that are made?
It can, but because the way it's formed is if you read the conference plan, there are great ideas in there, but it's like whenever you get a room full of people and everyone has a lot of good ideas. Well, where's the rubber meet the road? Where do we actually implement some of this stuff, and what are the rules I actually have to follow when I build my building? And so when you go through that process of actually coming down to what does someone actually have to do, it goes through that refinement stage of okay, this is what everyone wanted, to this is what we really can do as far as implementing, because staff has to review all this stuff, and city council would, if they're doing the alternative standards permit, they have to look at it, things of that nature. So
we really don't have a choice. It has to go to council because it's zoning.
Well, I was just concerned about, like, say, the 60%.
Yeah.
If it's already the city ordinance for the 60% on the highway for masonry, why not go ahead and establish that now instead of waiting, say, if the council does say, well, we wanted the 60%, then it's got to go be revised.
I think it is established.
It's 60% right now.
It's 60% right now in that interim ordinance.
Okay.
You have that on the books. I think the council and maybe some of you all that were...
I think it was adopted in November.
Yeah, it was November. They drafted it up as a stopgap measure
Right.
to get something on the books right now.
Exactly.
And then, but if you look at it, and if you read that ordinance, and we probably need to get you all that. Is there anybody that hasn't seen that ordinance? Okay, we need to get that to you. Maybe we get Peggy to get copies, and we need to send it to you all, because it has some good ideas in there, we were actually working on the plan when they were trying to do that, and they pulled something together to get something on the books. But as you read it, it could be more complete, which is what we're doing now. But y'all need to look at it, because it is in effect now, and it does have the 60% in it.
Right, and one of the things I don't know that's in there is the flat roof with the pitches and stuff like that, which is really concerns me, because we've got, I think there's projects right now being looked at
That are flat roofs.
that are flat roofs.
Yep, we need to debate, you know, what we really want, and that's what was not really done in that first ordinance. We're having a more, probably a little more broader debate on what we really think is appropriate.
Because I remember one of the questions from the last meeting was, is 60% native stone really why yes, it produces nice buildings, but is that something we necessarily want, or do we want to modify that some? And then so from this group, we'd help flush that idea out a little bit more, and then the community input meeting would help flush that idea out a little bit more. And then when it comes back to the P&Z for their hearing, they can make changes to it. And then of course when it goes to council, they can make changes to it.
But do we want all the metal buildings there, the old diner? I can't remember the names of all of them, but there's a lot of old metal buildings on 67 that really, you know, we don't want to prohibit the things that went in next to Burger King. We want that. We want to encourage that. So we've got to have some standards that give people assurance that if they're going to do stuff like that they're not going to have, you know, really poor quality development. And what we've got to do collectively is we've got to figure out how high the bar is. Remember, that's what we're doing. We're trying to figure out what is appropriate for 67.
And anything that would be in the works now would be grandfathered in, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And that was one of the key things of hurry up of getting the other ordinance, the interim ordinance passed, is because while you have a lot, it still takes the public process a while to get done because it's public. So one of the ways to do that is to have that interim ordinance to help fill that gap.
I just have to make a quick comment, because I went to most of the city council meetings or listened to them, and I was never under the impression that some of the things that they passed were interim solutions until a CPAC. I mean, nobody ever presented in that way. These were ordinances that they worked on for the city and said, this is what we're going to do. Now, I agree. I mean, I love the idea of this, and that's why I was wondering what was going to happen to these other things. But I just wanted to say, I've never heard it expressed that way in any city meeting, that these were kind of stopgap measures or interim things until something else came along. They were, no, we worked on this, the city wants this, we agree on it, we voted on it.
Well,
so
I don't think when they did them, they contemplated that.
I don't think they contemplated them being stopgaps.
Right.
No, because they've always wanted the standards there,
Right.
but then the comprehensive plan was going on, so they wanted the details to come out of the comprehensive plan, because the plan was always to have that type of ordinance, but at the same time the plan was going on, but it wasn't finished, so they wanted that input from there.
And I agree. I just wanted to say
so
that.
It's not
but
really,
it doesn't really. It's not really a
stopgap.
stopgap or an interim something.
The interim is you know, editorial. I mean, it's either an ordinance or it's not.
Yeah.
And then right now it's an ordinance, and it's that way until they change it.
Yeah.
And what we're hopeful is after the Planning and Zoning Commission makes its recommendation, it'll go to the council, and then they'll adopt it, and it will supersede. They'll have to repeal the one they have now, and then add this one.